I'm very glad that the stadium authorities reached an agreement with the Vikings and done so under severe time pressure so that the project could move forward. I don't know all the details. I'm not privy to the negotiations. I only know what I really been informed through the media and outlined that the authority presented to all of you, I believe, just shortly. So I don't have knowledge of all the details. I can safely assume that for most Minnesotans, this will look like a questionable deal because the economics of professional sports are highly questionable all over this country. And we've been dealing with this from the very beginning, that if we want to keep a team in Minnesota, if we want all the jobs that the project's going to provide, we want to have this as a magnet for further economic development in that blighted part of Minneapolis, which is already evidenced by Ryan Construction wanting to build a $400 million mixed-use enterprise right next to the stadium. That we had to make a deal, and we had to get the owners of the team to agree to a deal. And I commend Chair Michelle Helgen and Executive Director Ted Mondale and others, the board, for hanging in there, and from what I'm told, bringing down the amount of revenue from the personal seat licenses considerably. As far as I'm concerned, personally, $1 for personal seat licenses is $1 too much. So I could never be happy with that. But again, I accept that that's part of professional sports, certainly part of professional football, and we wouldn't have an agreement here. And we wouldn't have a team staying here if we hadn't been willing to accede to that demand on the team's part from the very beginning of the process with the legislature. So it's the perfect is the enemy of the good, and I think this is a good deal. It'll be a good deal for Minnesotans. It'll look a lot better in a year when we've got thousands of Minnesotans working to build it. It'll look even better after that when people get accustomed to it and see all the advantages, all the additional jobs and development and life that it's going to bring to that part of Minneapolis, and it's on its way, and it's on time and on budget. So I give them, again, Michelle Helgen and Ted Mondale and the others on the board tremendous credit for that.
Governor, notwithstanding your feelings about personal seat licenses, does this meet the test of a more modest Minnesota Midwestern price tag? Average price?
I don't know if you gave out the gross numbers. So I mean, it started. They're initially at 154 million, and now it's 100 million. They reduced it by a third, and that's very significant. So I think that's a significant accomplishment.
Governor, after all is said and done, does this still fit your definition of a peak stadium?
Well, I haven't seen the whole design, and I would prefer that there not be any personal seat licenses, but we wouldn't have a team. We wouldn't have a stadium project underway if that we had insisted on that. So it's a balance, but and again, having not seen the whole layout, but there are seats that are available, good seats for people that don't require a personal seat license. And the other point which was made to me was that these are investments. People will own these licenses, one-time payment spread over 3 or 5 years at the option of the buyer. But then they're part of somebody's net worth or equity, and they can be presumably passed on to their kids or grandkids. And so I think it just plays itself out over the next decade, say, and more of these get transferred and sold at discounts from one purchaser to another, and gets passed on in wills to families and the like. I think it'll disperse more, and it'll become even more egalitarian than it might start out to be.
The team's contribution right now stands at $177 million for $1 billion stadium. Is that acceptable for you?
Well, what's acceptable is they're going to sign an agreement to stay here for the next 30 years, and we're going to have a team here, and they're going to have the wherewithal to have a successful team. I mean, I want the Vikings to generate enough revenue that they can compete for the premier players, and as we learned with Brett Favre, the top of the line doesn't come cheaply, and I think the Minnesotans want a winner. We deserve a winner, and this is going to enable them to do that. Then we all benefit from that. If you look at the totality of what Minnesota is getting for this project, and it's a major public investment. But if you look at the number of jobs to build it, number of jobs to operate it, and all the ancillary economic growth that's going to occur around it, we're going to get a good deal. But, Metrodome was criticized at $60 million in 1982, and I'd say looking back on 31 years of that, we've gotten a very good return on that investment in terms of all the benefits and all the activities and everything else. And the other point that's been made is that the Vikings are only going to use the stadium because it's 10 games this season, but I'm hoping it's 12 because that means they would have the best record and they'd be in the playoffs hosting 2 games. But the rest of the time, 353 days of the year, it's going to be available for a lot of other activities as the Metrodome has been. And given the number of people want to be active here in the Metrodome, I just can imagine how much more appealing it's going to be to people to have these activities going on in a world-class new stadium.
What's your position if the Wilfs are charged criminally before the end of the year or within the next 6 months? I talked to the Attorney General in New Jersey as well as the Superior Court. I think it's highly likely that they're going to be charged and a major investigation going on, yet we're signing and we're not going to have official word from the court in New Jersey until December. They just told me this morning, and I've got a reply from the Attorney General's office that they wouldn't give me on the phone, but they called back and left a message that they don't want to say anything either way, which implies to me that they're looking at a criminal investigation against the owners of the Vikings, and what's the governor's position of that is happening?
Well, in our system of justice, anyone who's innocent until proven guilty. So being investigated is not the equivalent of being guilty
They've
of something.
just been charged with $100 million
May I finish my answer, please?
in fines.
May I finish my answer?
Yes, sir.
Being charged with something is not the same as being convicted. What I've been told by those who have looked into this, talked with the league about it, is that if, and this is a big if, there were to be a criminal conviction, that would change the league's position on the matter. The league's position now is they own the Vikings, and they have the support of the league, they have the financial backing of the league. So again, I wouldn't necessarily have picked Wilfs as the owners of the Vikings in this enterprise. They probably wouldn't have picked me to be governor in this enterprise. But the reality is we have each other, and they own the team, and they're either going to play football here or they're going to play football somewhere else. And so at this point, it's certainly a concern, but it's not at this point something that would prevent the deal from proceeding.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Verify as far as revenue, when you talk about the 177 million, 150 million of the NFL contribution, of the NFL money is a loan. So that is a loan that they will be required to pay back. So it's not at all accurate to characterize it as only 177 coming in
But they
from
get
the
back
team.
from stadium revenues that wouldn't be there.
That's right, but it is a loan. I mean, it definitely is a loan. You
If
can
there's
talk
anything
to
I
them.
said that's different from what Michelle said, take her word for it, not mine, okay?
Thank you.